Honda versus Harley. And no, we're not going to be comparing a Trail 90 with a bagger. That's ridiculous. I'm talking about the ultimate cruiser showdown. Now, ultimately, which is the better bike? Some say Hondas are just budget or beginner bikes, and other people say that Harleys are antiquated pieces of crap that leak more oil than the Exxon Valdez. But who's actually right? So in this video, I'm breaking everything down through a pros and cons list, which everybody knows that's how you decide on major choices, right? Having thrown a leg over both a Harley and a Honda, I'm also going to share my opinion on both those bikes. And we're going to find out which one's better for you, which one fits your budget, your riding style, and your long-term goals. Now remember, choosing between a Harley or a Honda isn't always about the price. There's the riding style, the experience level, your actual physical anatomy, and also what you want to do with that bike. Today, we're going to be diving deep into the aliens mystery. Just kidding, we're not. We're going to talk about what makes each of these bikes great, where they fall short, and a few things that nobody's talking about. So now I'm going to talk about the Honda Cruiser, what makes them so awesome. We're going to talk about the cons as well. We'll get to that in a minute. But they came to the United States and they were scaring the shit out of Harley. So in the 60s and 70s, everyone who was anybody dominated the racetrack. If you weren't dominating racetracks, you were nobody. So you had Yamaha out there, you had Honda, you had Harley. So the Honda Cruisers came on the scene. They were affordable, they weren't as noisy, they didn't leak everywhere, they didn't fall apart, and people were falling in love with them. So they were kicking Harley's ass in sales. It eventually led in the 80s to prompt Harley to plead with the Reagan administration to impose a tariff. A tariff was put through. I believe it was a 49% tariff on all import bikes over 750 cc's, excuse me. So Honda retooled and in true Honda fashion was able to adapt very quickly. They made a few bikes, which we call the tariff year bikes, to bypass those tariffs. So they weren't actually importing anything. They were building everything here in the States and staying legal. This was a problem for Harley because they had just really started pushing the new models of Sportster. And the problem was the Sportster was tanking. No one was buying it. It was heavy. It was ugly. It was not fun. People were buying what was fun. Now, there must have been something about these Hondas that made people buy them and really enjoy them and keep them that scared Harley enough to go and petition the government for a tariff. So what were those things? What were those pros about the Honda? Number one, if you're somebody just getting into modifying your bike or chopping your bike up, it's not that expensive to make little mistakes here and there along the way. How do I know this? Well, because I made those mistakes. And I figured out that, oh, okay, I gotta fix this. It's not that expensive. Hondas are nearly indestructible. Now, no engine is absolutely indestructible. That's not a real thing, obviously. However, even a poorly maintained Honda can last a long time. Another thing that makes the Honda stand head and shoulders above a lot of other brands is that they use modern engineering. They're not using antiquated, outdated technology in their bikes. They're not relying on engineering systems that haven't been updated in almost 100 years. Case in point, they feature water-cooled engines. A modern engineering marvel. Been around for a long time, since the 19th, actually 18th century. This keeps the temperature stable at high speeds. Unlike your mom on level 9 treadmill. Affordable parts. Replacement parts on a Honda are significantly cheaper than a Harley. The used market is prolific, at least at the time of this video. That could change. However, even OEM parts are reasonably affordable. Many of the parts can be replaced with over-the-counter hardware you can get at a hardware store as well. That keeps the cost of your build down. There's something nobody's really talking about with the Hondas. For years, they ran carburetors on their bikes before they shifted into PGM-FI, which is Honda's EFI system. The carburation on these bikes was awesome. Why is it awesome? Because when you get a Honda Shadow and you pull the carburetor off that, the carburetor can actually deliver more fuel and air to that bike than that bike can even handle. So they give you a lot of headroom to properly tune that bike for the best possible performance. Reliability. So you want a reliable ride, and Honda absolutely excels at that. Their bikes are well made, extremely reliable, and you can take them for miles and miles and miles and trust in that engine to get you from point A to point B without fucking up. One of the pros that I don't hear anybody talking about, and I don't think anyone really considers, is something that Honda nailed with an advertising slogan in the 70s, 80s era. And that was,
"You meet the nicest people on a Honda."
And I think that's true. For personal experience, I've met many people over the years riding a Honda who have become great friends, and we still keep in touch. Even people I met 20 years ago, we're still good friends. Now, I think it's important to consider the culture that you may become part of when you get on a certain bike. And if you are concerned with the people you spend your time with, that's something else to consider. Now, as with everything under the sun, nothing is freaking perfect, not even Honda. So let's dig into those cons. First off are some known but very minor issues. The stator plug. Now, the Honda Shadows have a stator plug that for some reason loves to get real hot and melt, like ice cream on a fucking hot summer day. The problem with that is it creates a lot of resistance, and resistance in electricity means excessive heat. That causes fires, things melt. I think you'd have to be having a lot of electrical problems with your bike first before an actual fire occurred with the Honda Shadows. Mostly what I see is people go, I don't know why my bike's not charging. It starts one day and then start the next. They start having these little gremlins, and then they figure out, oh, wow, why is this thing all brown? And why is it stuck together? That's a known issue, but it's also a very easy fix. You can hardwire that, or you can actually get a brand new plug and wire that in. No problem. The second thing, which is a known issue, is the auto fuel petcock, also known as the AFP. We actually have a video on the channel that shows you guys how to remove and bypass that. Now, the AFP was a vacuum-operated petcock shutoff, and the rear cylinder vacuum would actuate a diaphragm that would open and let fuel past. The problem was it failed. I experienced this personally, having to push my bike 13 miles back home when my bike wouldn't run at all. Yeah, I was there. Last but not least, the starter switch has little copper like wings. And what happens is they get weak over time and they don't make contact when you push the button in. Really easy fix. You open the switch up, you clean it off, and you bend those little tabs up and it makes contact again. It's super easy to fix. Or if you're in the mood, you can completely bypass that push button. We have a video for that too. Frame design could be simpler. I'm gonna get real with you right now. The split backbone thing needs to fucking go away. I'm pretty sure everybody's tired of that. Who thought that making a backbone the size of a freaking sea turtle was a good idea? I think it's retarded. It's absolutely stupid. Not a huge fan of that. The 750s, they started using square swing arms, and I know that's a thing the Harleys were doing, but even now, getting a round tube swing arm on your Harley on a Softail is cool. Some people might complain about this one. I don't care. The rear drum brake thing. Yeah, they're easy to maintain. They'll last a while, but dude, come on. It was like 2000. You guys are still putting drum brakes on big bikes. I've got a 1300 with a drum brake. This is a huge bike, and you're running a brake that's been around since the turn of the last century, not the 2000, but 1900. We've had drum brakes since back then. I don't know why they insisted on keeping drum brakes as center point of every rear wheel on all their Shadows. It's ridiculous. I think they really could have themselves a favor and upgraded to at least a simple disc brake that would look very nice. It also would have given people a lot more wheel options. Now here's something that chaps my ass. Honda decided to make a bunch of different wheel designs. They didn't stick with, a normal wheel size with normal spoke count and a normal hub that could be, possibly traded across different models. No. Every model they make, they're like, you know what? This one's going to be special. Well, yeah, the last 5 were special too. So what's really special? You got to get the exact wheel for the exact bike, and it just makes customization kind of a bitch. Now, these are 2 things that I think Honda really could have done a better job at. One of them is stuffing a bunch of wire in a headlight. And what sucks is if you want to change your headlight, you got this giant fistful of wire that you got to figure out what to do with. It makes life difficult, okay? The second thing that makes modification of a Honda sometimes difficult is the speedometers. They had it right with the 600, okay? Because it was a mechanical speedometer, mechanical odometer. You could unplug it and it would still work. It had lights going to it and all that. But if you unplug the lights, the speedometer still worked because it was a cable actuated speedometer. Now they went to these electronic speedometers that were integrated into like a plastic chrome nacelle on the gas tank. That looks neat, but what if you don't want to use that gas tank anymore and you want to get something smaller, right? Well, what do I do with my speedometer, my odometer? Well, you got to throw it away. Trust me, guys, I tried. I did some fiberglass stuff. I did some machine stuff, some sheet metal, and it just ends up looking like, lackluster, So I really think Honda could have kept some consistency going with their speedometers, making them cable driven. That way you could relocate or remove easily. And then the headlight thing. Why? Just why? Let's move on to the Harley-Davidson cruisers with the Pro. I'm sure when you think of a Harley, you think of that deep V-twin rumble, right? That potato sound. Now that is such an iconic sound and so important to Harley that they even sued Honda 5 times over the VT750 Ace. That was Honda's cruiser they released as a tribute to American cruiser styling. They designed a VT750 V engine that sounded like a Harley a little bit because it ran a true single pin crank. Hilarious, because the United States Patent and Trademark Office 5 times had to tell Harley, you guys, look, you don't have a trademark on your sound. You have a trademark on your engine design, on your mufflers, on every component on your motorcycles. You can patent the song or trademark the song Happy Birthday the way you sing it, but doesn't mean no one else can sing it. That's one of the things that I do love about Harleys. They have a very iconic, beautiful engine lope. My personal favorite one is the Harley Evolution engine. The sound is so iconic. It's just legendary. And it's a universal sound of happiness. Another pro with the Harleys, they've got big power, big torque. You can haul a lot of shit around on the Harleys. You want to run saddlebags, you want to run a passenger. They're big beasts of machines. So you got a lot of power and a lot of torque. Now, Harley has basically two engine designs, which is the Big Twin and the Sportster. Now, the Big Twin is a non-unit construction. That means the transmission and engine are separate. What I love about this, if you have to repair the transmission, you don't have to pull the whole engine out. If you want to repair the engine, the transmission gets to stay put. I think it's a fantastic design that prevents you from having to tear the whole thing apart just to get to one piece. There are drawbacks. It is much heavier than a Sportster. So the Sportster is what we call unit construction, where the transmission and the engine are in one crankcase. The transmission is a little harder to get to on a Sportster, but you have a more compact size, everything's all tight and snug in there, and it makes for a much lighter bike. And another pro, guys, the Harley is the ultimate chopper platform. When you think of a chopper in your mind, you close your eyes, you think chopper. You might think of any number of motorcycles that you've seen that are probably a freaking Harley. And they are just the quintessential platform to chop. There's so many different companies out there that have been around since the 60s and 70s making parts for these bikes. It's hard to grab a bunch of parts and make a cookie cutter chopper out of a Harley. I mean, if you're copying someone, yes. But if you're really listening to your own style, no way, man. You could definitely make a custom chopper out of a Harley. Now, Harleys aren't perfect either, so let's dive into those cons. First on my list would be the reliability issues. They're not the bike I would choose for a reliable choice. Yes, I know some guys out there are going to scream in the comments, oh, I rode my Harley 400,000 miles, it's perfect every day. All right, cool. That's great for you. However, out of everybody I know who has a Harley, almost every single one of them is constantly fixing something. It's leaking here, that's going wrong, that's squeaking. It's just a never-ending list of things that go wrong. If I was going to go on a long ride and I took a Harley, I would go with the expectation that something may break. So I would probably try to anticipate what's the most worn and bring extras, maybe an extra chain, tires, tubes. I don't know, man, but they're definitely not the king of reliability. All right, another big gripe of mine with Harleys is the oil leaks. Oh my God. And I've had everybody tell me, you know what, bro? If it's not leaking, it's not a real Harley. Which is okay, where's the logic here, guys? If it's leaking, there's a problem. Something's not fitting right, or something's blown out, or something's burned, Now, in my opinion, and from what I understand with Harley engineering, the reason they're prone to leaking is they are big, antiquated engineering designs. They really haven't pushed the envelope as far as improvements, we'll say. You have a lot of parts, especially old bikes. Those bikes have gone through so many heat cycles. That's heating up, cooling down, and that changes the metal. Metallurgy 70 years ago was nothing like it is today. Heat is a contributing factor. Inaccurate manufacture of parts is another contributing factor. They're heavy as they shake themselves to death. I mean, if you get on a Harley, it's shaking. It's vibrating like a washing machine on the spin cycle. All that vibration shakes things apart. I understand if the Harley ain't leaking, something's wrong. That's the word on the street. But I still think having a bike that just leaks oil everywhere is wrong. So another con is the vibration on a Harley. Some people might say, oh, I like it. From an engineering and, pro-con standpoint, it's a negative thing. Harleys stick with their single pin crank design. Now this causes a lot of vibration and they have to counterbalance all that weight in the actual engine. So the vibration is not necessarily a desirable thing. I'm going to call it a con in this list. Another con, Harleys are heavy as hell. If you're just starting out riding bikes, you are going to drop that bike. You know what the saying is? There's two kinds of riders, those who have gone down and those who will. So you drop an extremely heavy Harley, it's going to be a lot harder to get that bike up. and it's a lot more expensive to recover from dropping a Harley than it is a Honda. Which leads me into the next con. The Harley-Davidson is a pretty expensive bike. You are usually going to pay top dollar for those bikes. Additionally, they're expensive to repair. The joke is that HD stands for $100. You got a part replaced in your bike, you start at $100 and go up from there. Now this is a con for Harley, is reputation issues. There's plenty of super nice dudes out there riding Harleys, but you're more likely to ride into one of these, garbage barges who bought the whole thing on credit, who thinks he's better than you on a Harley. And I've just never been down with that. Even as a Harley rider, I think it gives a bad reputation to Harley riders everywhere, and I think that's a con. All right, another con here is the higher theft risk of Harleys. They have higher resale value for their parts, and that makes them a prime target for thieves. Kind of a downside. I mean, it's something to consider if you are looking at purchasing a Harley versus a Honda. Last con here is the antiquated technology. They are decades behind in their engineering. I like to say, yesterday's technology at tomorrow's prices. I think Harley really could benefit from advancing their designs a little bit. I know they had the money at least at one point in time, but they really need to get on board with the technology. It seems like recently there are a lot of EFI bikes out there now, but still the quality control seems to be an issue, and the technology seems to still be a little bit behind. Which one is right for you? I'm going to break it down for different types of riders, okay? So for a first-time builder, Honda. Absolutely. Cheaper mistakes, easy to work on, that's it. You want reliability? Again, Honda, no freaking contest there. If you're chasing that power and classic style, Harley. You got that big torque, big power, big personality. The rider who plans to customize? Harley. More aftermarket parts and legendary chopper status. But for me, it is a tie with the Hondas, just because a little bit of partiality. I have developed many, many parts that make it easy for Honda cruisers to be modified and affordably. You want a daily cruiser with minimal hassle. Honda, hands down. Fewer headaches, smooth ride. It's going to be a Honda for you, my guy. Price. For the budget-conscious rider out there, you're going to be looking at a Honda. The Harley, far and away, is a much bigger financial commitment than a Honda is going to be. In most cases. Street cred. Now, if you're the rider who's just wanting to get a bike to look like a badass, and you want to be the biggest douche you can be, go get a Harley. That's the way, my friend. At the end of the day, it really comes down to what kind of rider you are. Both bikes are absolutely categories on their own, and while they're both motorcycles, they have so many differences. One can't be stated as being, way better than the other. They both serve a different rider very well, but that rider should know what he wants out of his bike. On one hand, you got a guy who really enjoys the process of building an old panhead, finding the right parts and troubleshooting. The actual build is the destination. Then on the other hand, you've got guys who just want a solid bike to ride to and from work, maybe hit the taco stand on the weekend with the boys. Now finally, there is a section of riders who don't know much, and they don't want to spend a ton but still want a cool ride. Financial resources, mechanical skill, and desired use are the three factors you should consider when looking at a Honda or a Harley. If you want the classic American experience, Harley is your bike. If you want bulletproof reliability at a better price, swing that leg over a Honda. But what do you guys think? Are you Team Honda or Team Harley, or do you like to straddle both fences at the same time? Please, guys, drop your pick in the comments. Guys, we're working hard every day to bring you new content. If you don't want to miss any of it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you like this here hat, there we go, which I think is outstanding if I don't say so myself, you can get it at tjbrutalcustoms.com. We also just released our extra small thongs. We did not have a female model to show those to you guys, but we got a nice guy with a tight ass. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.